What if I told you that the ancient god Thoth, scribe of the heavens, guardian of sacred knowledge, and master of divine geometry, left behind a forgotten technique, one that could unlock your inner vision and reveal the unseen worlds hidden just beyond the veil of your perception? This isn't just mysticism wrapped in myth. It's a secret embedded deep within the Hermetic teachings, concealed behind symbols, numbers, and allegories, a secret meant only for those brave enough to awaken. You see, the ancients didn't speak plainly. They encoded their wisdom in riddles, art, and vibration, because true power was never meant for the careless. It was meant for the initiated. And among the most mysterious of these secrets lies the power of the inner eye, not just the pineal gland as we often hear, but something deeper, a bridge between dimensions, a spiritual antenna that can see without seeing. Thoth, the great Atlantean who would later be revered as the Egyptian god of wisdom, wrote of a sacred practice, an ancient inner science, that could activate this hidden sight. A technique so potent, it was said to part illusion like mist, revealing the divine architecture beneath all things. This wasn't merely metaphor or symbolic teaching, it was a real and living path of perception, tuned to frequencies beyond the visible spectrum. A technique preserved in fragments, echoed in tablets, whispered in initiation chambers, and now, reawakening. But why has this knowledge been buried? Why have modern minds lost touch with what the ancients held sacred? Perhaps because in a world of noise and distraction, true inner silence has become rare. Or maybe, just maybe, this was always meant to be hidden, until the right moment in time, when those ready to reclaim their vision would rise. In this video, we will peel back the layers. We will trace the path of Thoth across epochs and empires. We'll decode ancient symbols, uncover the veiled philosophy, and walk through the hidden mechanics of perception itself. And by the end, you'll not only understand this forgotten art, you'll know how to begin activating it within yourself. This isn't just a story about a god from a distant past. It's about you. Your dormant abilities, your divine inheritance, and your vision, beyond the invisible. Are you ready to see what's always been there, hiding in plain sight? Long before the pyramids pierced the sky of ancient Kemet, and before Egypt even had a name, there were whispers of a civilization known as Atlantis. This was not a mere myth, but a realm of immense spiritual advancement, where beings walked in harmony with cosmic law, and knowledge was not just accumulated but embodied. It was here, in the radiant halls of Atlantis, that Thoth the Atlantean first emerged, not as a god, but as a priest-king, a keeper of ancient light. Thoth was said to have lived for thousands of years, mastering the laws of time, energy, and consciousness. He chronicled these secrets in what would later be known as the Emerald Tablets, a collection of mystical inscriptions encoded with multidimensional wisdom. These weren't ordinary writings. They were vibrational keys, designed to awaken the slumbering memory within the soul of the seeker. To read them with the logical mind alone was to miss the entire point. They were written to be felt, not just understood. After the fall of Atlantis, Thoth journeyed to Egypt, where he became revered as the god Jehudi, scribe of the gods, inventor of writing, architect of time, and the silent observer of all things. It was under his guidance that the ancient mystery schools flourished. The temples of Luxor, Karnak, and Heliopolis weren't just places of worship, they were living universities of the soul. And at the heart of these teachings was a single, consistent truth: there is more to reality than what meets the eye. But the eyes they referred to were not the two upon your face. They spoke of the eye of Horus, the third eye, the eye of Ra, symbols pointing toward an inner vision, a divine faculty lying dormant in the mind of man. This was not imagination. This was gnosis, the direct perception of truth beyond the illusion of material form. The ancients believed that to truly see was to pierce through Maya, the grand illusion, and perceive the eternal blueprint that underlies all things. This is where Thoth's technique becomes so vital. His teachings weren't about blind faith or religious dogma. They were about activation, about refining the inner senses until the invisible became visible, until symbols spoke in whispers, and reality itself became fluid. The priests of old trained for years in silence, geometry, sacred movement, and vibrational resonance, not to escape the world, but to see it as it truly is. Yet, over time, the world changed. The veil thickened. The temples crumbled. And humanity turned its gaze outward. The industrial age prized logic over intuition, science over spirit, and vision was confined to the visible. The eye of the soul was dismissed as fantasy, the pineal gland labeled a mere endocrine relic. The sacred texts of Thoth were hidden away, fragmented, misinterpreted, or lost in the sands of dogma and conquest. But truth never dies, it only waits. Hidden in allegory, preserved in stone, encoded in myths and symbols, the wisdom of Thoth waits for those willing to remember. And now, as humanity begins to awaken once more, there is a rising call, a magnetic pull, to reclaim this ancient birthright. To see beyond the veil is not a miracle reserved for mystics. It is a human ability, long forgotten but not gone. And as we now revisit Thoth's technique, not as a story but as a living path, we begin to understand, what we call reality is only a shadow of what truly is. And the vision to pierce it lies within you. The question is, are you ready to remember? To understand Thoth's technique for activating inner vision, we must begin by shifting our idea of what seeing truly means. In the modern world, vision is tied to the eyes, to the absorption of light and form. But the ancients knew something deeper, that the most profound sight does not rely on the physical, it emerges from within. The eyes of the flesh perceive the surface, the eye of the soul perceives essence. And it is this inner eye, what the Egyptians symbolized as the eye of Horus, the Hindus referred to as the third eye, and mystics across all traditions knew as the gateway to the unseen realms, that Thoth sought to awaken. Thoth's teachings were not random esoteric riddles. They followed a precise and sacred order. He understood the human being as a divine instrument, a temple of energies, frequencies, and channels. And at the center of this temple lies the seat of vision, the pineal gland. But this is not merely a biological structure, it is a transmitter and receiver, an ancient antenna capable of tuning into higher realms of reality when properly activated. According to the Emerald Tablets, Thoth spoke of becoming one with the flame, of entering silence so profound that the veil between worlds thins. He urged seekers to align their thoughts with cosmic law, to purify their inner temple, and to look inward with the eye that sees not the light of this world. This was not poetic metaphor, it was instruction. The secret was that true vision arises from stillness. Stillness was the first gate. To awaken the inner eye, one had to detach from the sensory distractions of the outer world. Thoth taught that as long as you were identified with the noise, the thoughts, the emotions, the material cravings, you would remain blind to the deeper realms. But through silence and focus, the mind becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, truth reflects. This is why initiates in the ancient temples spent years in darkness, in meditation, in the study of sacred geometries and vibrational tones. They were preparing their inner field to receive the light that does not burn, the inner illumination. The second key was vibration. Thoth spoke of sound as the creative force, the word through which all things came into being. The emerald tablets mention a specific phrase, "Raise thou thine eyes to the light. Speak in the words that I give. Light shall thou have in the path." These were not just poetic verses, they were vibrational activations. Ancient mantras, chants, and tones, when spoken with intent, begin to resonate with the pineal gland, unlocking what modern science now calls piezoelectric stimulation. In other words, sacred sound literally vibrates the crystalline structure within the gland, awakening dormant faculties of perception. And then came geometry, the third key. Thoth was the master of sacred geometry, and for good reason. Geometry is the language of the soul, the hidden design beneath all life. When the inner eye is activated, it begins to see these patterns not only in nature, but in thoughts, events, and energy. The initiates would meditate upon specific geometric symbols, the flower of life, the Vesica Piscis, the eye of Horus itself, not as art, but as living codes that restructured the consciousness of the observer. Thoth's technique involved visualizing these shapes within the mind's eye until they became internalized, seen not just as images, but as energetic maps. What emerges from this process is a transformation of perception. The veil thins. Coincidences become synchronicities. Intuition becomes guidance. You begin to see energy, feel truth, and sense deception, not through logic, but through direct gnosis. This is the ancient art of seeing beyond the visible. Yet, Thoth was wise enough to warn that not all visions are divine. Inner sight must be guided by purity and will. Without spiritual maturity, the inner realms can become illusions of their own. This is why the path to true inner vision is not a shortcut or a trick, it is a sacred discipline, a life aligned with the higher laws of nature and spirit. And so, the journey begins with stillness, is refined through vibration, and blossoms through sacred imagery. But there is more. There is a deeper layer, one that connects not only to the soul, but to the stars themselves. To fully grasp Thoth's secret technique, we must step beyond the veil of symbols and enter the deeper waters of his teachings, the realm where paradox reigns and truth cannot be held, only experienced. What we call inner vision is not merely the ability to see hidden forms or interpret signs, it is the awakening of a multidimensional awareness, a synthesis of mind, soul, and cosmic intelligence. Thoth taught that the awakened vision is not confined to the boundaries of time or space. In fact, once activated, this sight can bend the laws of linear perception. The past, present, and future begin to bleed into one another. You start to experience moments not as separate events, but as patterns vibrating within a larger, living tapestry. This is what Thoth meant when he said, "Time is an illusion, a circle within a circle, the serpent that eats its own tail." This isn't poetic metaphor, it is metaphysical truth. The eye that sees beyond the invisible is the eye that perceives time not as a line, but as a spiral. Those who master this sight are able to remember things that haven't happened yet, to feel the energetic signature of choices before they are made, and to intuit the unfolding of destiny before it arrives. One of the most profound aspects of Thoth's teachings lies in the paradox that the more you awaken your inner vision, the less you depend on your outer senses. The visible world becomes a mere reflection of deeper truths, an echo of a higher reality. The inner eye doesn't see in the way the physical eyes do, rather, it knows. It perceives with clarity that is felt more than it is visualized. This form of perception is often called second sight, prophetic sight, or noetic awareness. But Thoth also issued warnings. He emphasized that awakening inner vision without discipline can lead to delusion. Just as light can illuminate, it can also cast shadows. Not everything in the unseen is benevolent. The astral realms are filled with distortions, thought forms, and entities drawn to the curious but untrained mind. This is why his teachings always included purification rituals, sacred oaths, and vibrational alignments. Only through mental clarity and spiritual grounding could one navigate the higher planes safely. One powerful image that Thoth used was that of the scarab beetle, symbol of rebirth, transformation, and the rising sun. In Egyptian iconography, the scarab pushes the sun across the sky, much like the soul pushes consciousness through the cycles of incarnation. But esoterically, the scarab also represents the movement of awareness from lower perception to higher vision. It teaches that transformation must occur from within, that the process of awakening is not about adding more, but stripping away the false, the heavy, the illusory. Thoth's technique, then, is not a single step, but a sacred progression. Stillness leads to resonance. Resonance leads to geometric attunement. Attunement opens the gateway to memory beyond time. And memory leads to vision, not just of this world, but of the higher architecture behind it. Another misunderstood component of his teaching is mental projection. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth writes, "Man is a flame bound to a mountain, but the flame can be made to rise." This cryptic statement refers to the ability to use focused willpower to shift consciousness beyond the body. When the inner eye is activated and the mind stilled, one can project awareness beyond the physical shell. This isn't imagination, it is conscious exploration of the astral and etheric planes, what some today refer to as out-of-body experiences or remote viewing. What's extraordinary is that modern quantum theory is beginning to echo these ancient ideas. The notion that particles exist in multiple states, that time is nonlinear, and that consciousness can affect matter, these scientific breakthroughs mirror the ancient truths that Thoth guarded. His technique was not superstition, it was spiritual science. And yet, despite all this depth, Thoth left his teachings open-ended. He never presented a final answer, but instead taught in riddles and paradoxes. Why? Because he knew that true vision is earned, not given. Each seeker must walk the labyrinth, confront their illusions, and pierce the veil in their own time. This is not a path for the passive observer. It is for the seeker, the one whose soul burns with remembrance. So now the question becomes, how do we bring these ancient teachings into our modern lives? How do we practically apply Thoth's wisdom to awaken the inner vision buried beneath centuries of noise? The wisdom of Thoth was never meant to remain locked in stone tablets or whispered only in secret temples. It was intended to be lived, embodied through practice, discipline, and devotion. The process of activating your inner vision is not a mythical fantasy or a feat reserved for ancient priests. It is a path available to anyone with the courage to turn inward, to unlearn what is false, and to awaken what has long slept beneath the surface of consciousness. To begin applying Thoth's sacred technique, one must first cultivate sacred stillness. This is not simply the absence of noise, but the active silencing of the reactive mind. In today's world, where constant stimulation numbs the senses and fragments attention, the greatest rebellion is inner quiet. Dedicate time each day to sit in deep, intentional stillness. Find a dark, undisturbed space, close your eyes, and breathe, not shallowly, but deeply, rhythmically, into your belly. Allow your thoughts to rise and fall without chasing them. As the noise begins to settle, imagine a flame in the center of your forehead. Do not force the image, feel it. This is the first seed of inner light. Next, introduce vibration. Thoth taught that sound is the key to unlocking hidden doors within the body. Begin chanting ancient tones such as Om, Ra, or Hu. Each of these carries a frequency that resonates with different energy centers, particularly the third eye and crown. As you chant, place your awareness gently between your brows. You may begin to feel a subtle pressure, a tingling, or even flashes of light in your mind's eye. This is not imagination, it is activation. To deepen this state, incorporate sacred geometry. Meditate upon symbols like the Eye of Horus, the Flower of Life, or the Golden Spiral. These are not merely drawings, they are blueprints of creation. Visualize them floating in the space of your inner mind, slowly rotating, glowing with soft light. If you can, draw them yourself. The act of drawing with mindful intent strengthens your connection to their energy. This is how the ancients embedded geometry into the subconscious. They didn't just study symbols, they merged with them. As you continue these practices over days and weeks, you'll begin to notice changes. Intuition sharpens. Dreams become vivid and symbolic. You might catch glimpses of energy fields, feel the emotional truth behind words, or sense the subtle undercurrents in conversations. These are signs that your inner vision is awakening. But be gentle with the process. Thoth's path is not about rushing, it's about refinement. Like tuning an instrument, your inner senses require patience and care. However, there are obstacles. One of the greatest is doubt. The rational mind will resist what it cannot immediately prove. But Thoth reminds us, faith is the bridge between worlds. Without it, the eye remains shut. Another challenge is expectation. Inner sight does not always come as grand visions, it often begins as a whisper, a feeling, a nudge. Trust it. Honor it. And it will grow. To protect your progress, purify your lifestyle. Avoid overstimulation, especially before bed. Limit exposure to media that promotes fear, chaos, or division. Your consciousness is a garden, whatever you feed it will take root. Thoth's initiates adhered to rituals of cleanliness, both physically and mentally. Consider incorporating simple rituals into your day. Light a candle with intention, cleanse your space with incense or sound, offer gratitude before meditation. These small acts shift your frequency and signal to the inner realms that you are ready. Lastly, align your will. The inner eye opens not just through practice, but through purpose. Ask yourself, why do I want to see? If your reasons are rooted in ego or power, the gates will remain closed. But if your longing comes from the heart, from a desire to remember, to serve, to awaken, then the universe will conspire to guide you. The technique of Thoth is not a relic of the past. It is a living art, waiting to be reborn through you. The temple is your body. The I is within you. The time is now. So now you stand at the edge of a threshold, a moment between forgetting and remembering. You've journeyed through the ancient chambers of Thoth's wisdom, glimpsed the hidden architecture of the inner eye, and uncovered a technique that has slept in silence for centuries, waiting for the right soul to stir it awake. This isn't just a mystical curiosity or spiritual exercise. It is the reclamation of a divine faculty, a return to your original design. The inner vision that Thoth spoke of is not separate from you. It is you. It has always been there, waiting beneath layers of distraction, doubt, and domestication. And now, as you begin to practice the art of stillness, vibration, geometry, and sacred intention, that vision will begin to rise, not with thunder and lightning, but with the quiet certainty of remembrance. This path will not always be easy. There will be days when the world tempts you back into blindness, when the noise of the outer distracts from the light of the inner. But every moment you return to the flame, every breath, every chant, every geometric whisper drawn in the silence of your mind, you will be strengthening a current older than time itself. You are not just practicing a technique. You are aligning with the current of the divine architect, the cosmic scribe, the one who wrote the language of light into the fabric of existence. And so, ask yourself, what would change if you truly saw? Not just people or events, but the energetic truth behind them. How would your life shift if you could read the subtle signs, feel the future calling, or pierce through illusion with effortless clarity? This is not fantasy. This is the legacy of Thoth. And it is yours to claim. Let this not be the end, but the beginning. The activation has started. Now it is your responsibility to nurture it. Let your vision guide you. Let your soul remember. And as you walk this path, you don't walk alone, you walk with Thoth, with the lineage of seekers, sages, and initiates who came before you, and with the eternal flame that now burns quietly between your brows. If this awakens something within you, share it. Reflect on it. Practice it. And when you're ready, return again. The deeper layers are still waiting. Now I ask you, what do you see when you close your eyes?